Hey, this week on the 167, we wrap our series in Ecclesiastes. What's in it for me? Welcome to the 167. Hey, welcome back to the 167. This week with me is Pastor Rick George.
Good morning, fresh off of vacation.
Fresh, ready to go, ready to just drop some knowledge on us about Branson and
Yeah, boy, we
traveling journeys.
we had a rip-roaring vacation, 3 days in Branson. That was
Go on a vision quest out there.
we saw Jesus.
Oh.
Yeah, we had to drive to Branson to see Jesus, but he was there. It was good.
Like in a vision? No, at the Sight and Sound
Yeah,
Theater.
Sight and Sound Theater. It was good.
It was a vision. And with us as well is Pastor Jake Reeves.
I'm always on vacation.
You are always
my
a vision.
True story.
So today we are wrapping it up. We wrapped up the series on Sunday of What's in It for Me.
Yeah.
So I just,
What we were in a book of the Bible. I can't remember what was.
elasticity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Elasticity 6.
Ecclesiastes. Yeah.
The Eccles. So as we've gone through this book of the Eccles, what do you think, like the whole series, like what was a good takeaway, a good story, something to celebrate that you guys got to see?
Yeah, I'll let you. Like, I could come up with stuff, but what do you?
Oh, sure,
what do you
sure.
think?
There's, and this is like this isn't the most pressing thing, but it's what popped into my head. Thinking back to Trudy's message and just like the frankness where she looked and just said, "This is all worthless."
Yeah.
But in the best of ways, obviously, as we so often return to Hevel and how, the things that we are wrapping ourselves up in this life don't hold weight. It really is one of those series that built on itself really well. Just like a, winding a rubber band plane, if anybody
Yeah.
had those as a
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
You didn't wind it too far. It's just enough where it took it off.
So,
I also grew up in the 20s.
Ah, see?
yeah.
Man, rubber band playing.
So yeah, just the reminder every single week of this series that most of what we think is important really isn't, and that there are other things that we tend to kind of brush off as not important that are of most importance. And so just that reminder of we need to have a focus shift or a mind shift daily to not get so caught up in the culture in what seems to be the most important things right now, when Solomon, God, Jesus tells us through Scripture, that's probably not what you should be focused on. That's not the most important thing. It's in the end, it's going to be worthless. It's going to, as you said this week, it's going to burn up.
Yeah.
Right. Or we've been singing the song about, when the winds come and the rains pour, my firm foundation, right? I've built my life and in the ministry, in the church, and my family on the rock, on the things that really matter most, not on the shifting sand of culture. So that's kind of my takeaway, that daily I have to be reminded that there are things that I'm going to be confronted with throughout this day that are going to seem like they're really valuable and important, but they're really not. And I can't let those things take me away from the things that are of most importance.
Yeah. And I think I speak for a lot of people, which is that I will never forget the word Hevel.
Yeah.
You introduced that the first week, and we really talked about it a lot. And I love the way that you kind of pulled that out and kind of plucked it out. We looked at it in a 360-degree thing where it's like, yeah, it's vapor and it's mist. It's something that's, nothingless, meaningless. But there's this mysterious aspect of it, because I think that's the thing that drives us crazy sometimes, is we're like, why does this thing seem so important to me? Like it seems like it's a good thing. And there's this mystery of like, why am I drawn to this? And yet it doesn't have eternal significance, but it has some temporary significance. And it's just this thing that kind of cooks your brain a little bit of going, well, I have to have a job, but it shouldn't be my identity. And like, there's all this stuff about it so I thought the mystery aspect of it where you kind of pulled that out and said, listen, this is mysterious. Like, we're not going to understand it this side of heaven. You know, like we're going to feel this fleshly pull towards the world, and that's okay. It's, you know, it's mysterious, and it's a little bit, we can't quite wrap our brains around it.
Yeah, and I think the trap that every single one of us falls into, every person listening to the podcast, every person alive falls, you know, victim to this trap of the things of this world are going to make me happy. The things of this world, well, that's where I'm going to find my value, my fulfillment in life. And we all tend to look at those things, whatever it is, like homes, cars, money, vacations, you name it. Like we were just in Branson, right? And we spent 3 days there, and just the different levels of things that you can do to bring fulfillment and value to your life at various price points, right? And so there are people doing all of those things. So you have, we drove through a little, it's not so little, but a new housing development, but they're all used for Airbnbs or Verbos, whatever. So they're all, you know, rentals or vacation homes. Some of them sleep 12. Some of, like there was one that sleeps 50. Like it's a big, a big place. And so I looked it up, and for our 3-day stay at the smallest of them would have cost us to stay there Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, just for Trudy and I. Right? We could have brought some friends along, but about $5,000.
Oh,
Yeah,
Well,
about $5,000.
oh man.
Yeah,
Jesus is in the vicinity.
yeah, and there are dozens and dozens of those homes built on the hillside overlooking Table Rock Lake. It's a beautiful place, and there are cars everywhere, families, groups packed into those homes. Why? Like, why is that so? Like, I'm going to spend $5,000 to stay 3 nights at this place in Branson that is simply a house. Like, there's nothing, like, if I'm going to do anything, I still got to pay for entertainment somewhere else to go do, but it's that important to me. Why?
Yeah.
It's just an interesting, so that Hevel, that somehow I've got this level of wealth or perceived wealth that I'm willing to throw out there to spend a couple of nights living in luxury. And that's just one example, right? So,
Well, and to kind of, you know, pull that out too, it's the, you know, I was reading something today, and it was just about being uncomfortable. And it talked about how, like, as parents, a lot of times the things that grow us when we were kids and when we're growing up as adults is the things that made us uncomfortable. And so you have this period where you're uncomfortable, so therefore you financially, so you go, well, I got to get my stuff together, and I you know, start my own business and do these things. I am uncomfortable because I have to get up at 5:30 in the morning to work out, but I have this goal. You know, I have a diet. I need to be uncomfortable in that, and it's like that's where I see growth. And then what we will do is we will turn around and spend $5,000 on a vacation home for our kids, and it's this thing of going, and then we're surprised where, like, all of a sudden they're not growing, and it's like, well, they grow when you make them uncomfortable. You know, it's like, and it's so there's this mysterious kind of, like, you know, what we think is really going to matter. We're like, we're going to make a family, you know, family memory, and then really what we're doing is, you know, backfiring on us in some way.
so as you look through Ecclesiastes and you see Solomon, who has unlimited wealth, I mean, to spend $5,000, you know, to go to a vacation home for a few days, like
Chump change.
Yeah, wouldn't make a dent in him. But you look at his life and all the lavish things that he did on this journey trying to discover some meaning, and it's just a reminder that all those things in the end, it's like, well, that really wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
You know, we just spent $5,000 to spend, you know, 3 days at this house, and the kids still fought, and they were still
I hate
ungrateful. You know, they were complaining that this wasn't right, and that was, it was Hevel. And so it's that tension that we live in to see the value of experiences and the value of life and living life to the full, and making the most of every opportunity that we have, which is another principle in Scripture, right? So we're supposed to make the most of all of these opportunities, but to not find our identity there, or to not determine our value based on the things. Like I'm not as fulfilled as the person who stayed in that house, right, for their vacation. I was only able to stay at this, $80 a night hotel with my family, and they spent $2,000 a night. They must be happier. They're more fulfilled, and that's not true. And that's a hard thing to try to comprehend.
And I think it creates this false expectation, because I remember that when you said that the kids still fought, I was like, man, I remember we saved up, and my mom and dad and our nieces, like we all went to Disney, and I'm thinking, you're at Disneyland. There should not be one problem. You should just be, thank you, mommy and daddy. Yeah. I will do whatever. And it's just like, no, they get tired and they need naps and they're hungry. And it's just like I'm going, at the same time, I'm frustrated because I'm like, are you so ungrateful that you don't realize how much this cost us? And on the other hand, I'm going, they're children.
Yeah.
But it's because I've set it up in my mind that I have an expectation of this will finally make us happy. This will finally, have a dream vacation. And it's like, it sets up this false expectation of, like you said, fulfillment.
Yeah.
That's why I'm withholding Disney from my children until they're 40 years old. Yeah. I'm not taking my grandkids. Yeah. I'm just going to take them as 40 years. You will appreciate this now.
All right, now you're 40. Let's go.
No, but
yeah. So, but we lose sight, I think, of the things that are most important for the things that are right in front of us, that we can see, that seem like the people staying there seem to be happy. The people that drive that car seem to be happy. I want to be as happy as they are. Well, what you're seeing isn't necessarily reality. You're seeing, a snapshot, but yeah. So Solomon just tells us, hey, that's not where you're going to find your value. That's not, this life, and no matter what you can afford and what you buy and where you go and how many women you have and how much alcohol you can drink and how much food you can indulge yourself in. At the end of the day, it's not going to make you any happier. And so we started off with, that mist and the vapor, and it just seems to be there, and then it's not there. And it was concluded with a fire hazard.
I have my eyebrows.
So
nothing
with, the flash paper, which, kudos. It's good. It looked great. So
close up match.
No idea how terrified we watching that fireball almost reached the upper lights, and I was just like, please, Lord,
sweet Lord.
Yeah. Hey, Pastor Rick's on vacation. Let's do something extremely dangerous.
It's always like, Pastor Rick's on vacation. Let's try not to burn down the church as a joke. And I'm like, I'm going to play with you.
Yeah. So when the cat's away, the mice will play.
So we listened to all that wisdom from Solomon, and the author, who's kind of been documenting this whole thing, he says, hey, listen, I'm going to boil it down to two things: fear God and obey his commands. And so, like I said, I always think that that's a weird phraseology, but when you guys hear that, fear God, what images or practices or really kind of mindsets does that put you in? Like, what do you extrapolate from that? Fear God.
Yeah. So there's a huge difference between fearing God and being afraid of God, right? And so I think a lot of people, when they see fear God, assume that you're supposed to be afraid of him in this terrified sense, but it's not. It's more of a respect, right? It's an honoring. So when I reached a certain age, probably about 21, 22 for me, I felt pretty confident because of my physical attributes and just who I was. I could probably beat up my dad.
Are we talking about this? We're talking about the point in your life when you're like, I think I can probably take my dad at this point.
Every man goes through this point.
Every man, yes.
So it's like, I'm pretty confident I could. Did I ever attempt it, or would I ever attempt it? So he's 91, he's coming up on 92.
Now's the time.
Now's your
Now,
chance.
I am more confident than ever that I could take. He's got 2 knee replacements, a hip replacement, a shoulder replacement. His other shoulder is bad. He can't lift it above his head. I'm pretty sure I can take him, but I fear him. Right? I have that respect. I'm not going to do that. That's what it's about. Not can I, but I'm not going to.
In my cartoon brain, though, like when OJ was here in the kitchen, like making coffee on Sunday morning, I just pictured you like sneaking up behind him, and he turns around, like throws a cup of coffee in your face, and hits you with his cane. He's like,
Flips
I
him
knew.
over.
Yeah.
Like, I've been waiting for this day my whole life,
Still
son.
think you can take me. But
so-
that is like a universal thing, though. If women listening to this podcast, if you don't know, and the guys will resonate with this,
Yes.
I feel like there's always a time where you reach what you think is adulthood, and you're like, I think I can take my dad.
Yep.
And it's like, and either, like I said, you just don't attempt it. Like I remember, I tell a story, but I was like 17, I think, and my dad just asked me. I was on my way out of the house. He's like, "Where are you going?" And I looked at him and said, "Does it matter?" I said, "I make my own money. I work a job. I have my own car. Like I pay my." I'm just like, "What? Like why do you care?" I'm like, I didn't have a curfew. I was very responsible, and I just said, "Why do you care?" And I said, and he goes, "You're not going anywhere." And I said, "What are you gonna do? Spank me?" And he, like quick as a whip, like all of a sudden, just like. I was, 16 years old. I'm about the height that I am now. Bent me over and smacked me on my butt. He's like, "Go sit in your room and you can try this again in 5 minutes." And I was like, "Yes, sir." I just went upstairs, came back down. He's like, "Hey, where are you going?" And I was like, "Me and Jeff are going to go to the movies. Is that okay?" And he goes, "Here's $20. Here, I'll pay for your movie."
Yeah. So that fear is an honoring, a respect of God. So when Solomon says, "Okay, here's what it boils down to: fear God," it means to know Him at an intimate level, to a place where you understand who He is and you respect that. Right.
Well, and often in the Bible context, it's in a context of kind of a worship thing. So, like, what do you think about that, Jake? Like, does that have a place in our hearts in worship?
Yeah, I mean, this is to boil it down to, like, here's for our 5th graders that are listening. No, I'm just kidding. They can handle even more than this. But
Shout out to the Greener boys. That
yeah,
listen to this.
man, what's up? No, this is really the small God, big God, whatever that you fall into with the mindset.
Yeah.
Where this is, the Old Testament. One of the things I do love about reading the Old Testament is you get a very big sense of God. When His glory fills the temple, when after Solomon's prayer, and like the priests won't go in at that point, like you get this like, oh my goodness. And then you hear, when you actually, study about what it means to be in the presence of God, there is this, it's not this afraid thing. It's genuinely a sense of awe of how holy He is and how big, that He's the creator. And granted, our faith is you take that and you take the intimacy of Jesus and being one-on-one. But a lot of times we kind of box God down smaller and smaller until it's like, you're my buddy, God. You're,
My homeboy.
I'll come back around to you. And it's like, hey, now it's not showing that reverence, which I think you encapsulated well in your fighting your father thing, but just the sense of there's a genuine honor because you actually are grasping a little bit that God is bigger.
Now I have this fear that people listening to this are like,
Elder
"What?
abuse.
Pastor Rick's gonna go beat up OJ? No way! I'm not letting that happen."
And the other half are like, I'm gonna put money on that, and
Yeah, I'm putting my money on OJ.
So we got to call Vegas and start a. No, I think it's good because, like I said, it's that awe and that respect. I think that's always a good perspective to have because I see people that they'll watch a National Geographic show about how big the universe is, and then when you ask them about their God, it's almost like they feel like God fits inside the universe rather than the other way around.
Yeah, and that idea that, okay, I'm supposed to fear God, right? And so that reverence of God, that respect of God, that's what then enables us to obey His commands, right? It's because I honor you, I have a reverence of you, that I'm willing, Like, I want to do these things because of that reverence to you. So Solomon says, hey, you can go and you can eat as much food and drink as much alcohol and go on, trips and spend money and like crazy and do all these things. But ultimately it comes down to, do you really have a reverence for God, an intimacy that you know him, and out of that reverence flows this willing heart of obedience. And what complicates it is God, he's my homeboy, he loves everybody. And now here are all these commands that I'm not sure I understand them. And why would he say that? And I don't really like them. So I'm going to decide which ones I like and which ones I don't. See, that's putting more reverence on ourselves and more, instead of like,
I make my own money. You no longer have a stake
exactly.
in this.
But what Solomon is saying is just come before God and say, I might not understand everything about you, but I have such a high regard for you and reverence of you that even in these areas that I don't like and that I don't understand, I'm going to sacrifice for you and I'm going to just be obedient to you.
Mm-hmm. That's why I will never understand when I encounter people who their demeanor towards God is they haven't figured out. Either as, he's this big, I'm like, because the second I go through and I look at the bigness and have the reverence for him, and then in tandem, I look at, Jesus, the fact that he is our friend and the fact that he listens to our cries for help and everything, that should melt your mind. Those two things should not go together. Yeah. And so I think when people are dismissive or like, Jesus, my homeboy, or, oh my gosh, I'm so fearful of God. And
he couldn't possibly care about me.
Yeah, he couldn't, it's so distant. I'm like, no, the perfect place to be in a Christian is when your mind is just continually melted by.
Yeah.
Well, and that obedience, like I said, and that's why I preached the way I did this week, because I'm like, I see that all over the New Testament where that matters. Like I said, you look at in the New Testament where it talks about faith without works is dead. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and that's why I think those parables are so pivotal. Like I said, we talked about the Minas one, but the one with the talents, like I said, the servant at the end, that servant gets thrown out. Like the parable of the Minas is interesting because he says he gives Minas to 10 servants and we only see what happens to 3 of them. But he just deals with like the first 3. But the parable of the talents, like I said, that guy, he says, listen, you haven't done anything with this. Mm-hmm. And he actually tosses him in with the rest of the people that don't end up in the kingdom. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, I think that people can just choke Jesus out of their life and they're not even meaning to. They're like, but it goes back to what Jesus says about even the demons believe in God and they shudder. So that even that fear of God, demons fear God, Satan fears God, but does that motivate you to obey his commands? Does it motivate you to put your faith into action? Does it motivate you to give a good return on the gifts that God has given you? Otherwise, like, I'm not telling you that, like, if you only do 9 out of 10, you're going to go to hell. But I think there is a point where you have literally choked Jesus out of your life because you just go, I don't want to do any of those things because eventually I'm ashamed to be in your kingdom.
Yeah. So I think again, this opinion is my belief that in our current culture, the state that we're in, is we're more concerned about trying to figure out all the intricate details of what God might have meant and all of the things that are out here that are kind of ambiguous, and we want to try to rationalize all and try to fit them into our world instead of just falling in love with God and knowing him and having a reverence for him that says, I don't know what this means, but I know you. And I trust you. And so when Dad says, no, you're not going to do that, that I say, okay.
Dad knows best.
I trust you, instead of, well, you're old fashioned, you don't really know. And that is so, I'm going to go do what I want to do. And Solomon's like, I've been there, I've done that. I want to try to save you the trouble. Don't go down that road. Just fall in love with God. Just know him. And out of a life of reverence, live in obedience to him.
Mm-hmm. All right, parting shots, last couple minutes. what is something that throughout the series that you have said, like that was kind of the challenges when we're asking what's in it for me? What's something that you kind of looked at either personally or you've heard a story about somebody in the congregation that they said, I've identified this thing as Hevel, and I'm either going to make it my mission field or I'm going to get rid of it. What do you think were some of the common ones that you heard, or what was something in your own life that you just said, you know, hey, I can probably jettison this?
I've heard a couple kind of a common, and this isn't a new thing, but I've heard people talking more about seeing things on Facebook and the comparison and realizing that what I'm seeing on Facebook, like people, it's Hevel. Like that, like that isn't reality. It's all gonna, like that picture, that moment that you want me to be captivated by, it's just gonna burn up. It, like that was just a flash of a moment that you're trying to hold on to. And hearing, again, it's not a new concept. We all know that, but I've heard a couple of different people, a common theme of, yeah, I don't want to get caught up in the comparison of what I'm seeing on Instagram or Facebook.
That's good. What about you, Jake?
I mean, I've heard, and this one, it's always a stepping on toes, just being upfront with people for Johnson County. I've had multiple conversations now with people that are wrestling with how do I engage my children in, it's typically sports, like, you know,
Extracurricular activities.
Extracurricular. I mean, but you know, we unfortunately we're not. we definitely don't demonize. I know.
Yeah.
I know all your kids played.
They did.
I played. You appreciate sports, Lucas.
I played sports.
I know.
Lucas
not
played
well.
AE Sports, Madden 20.
He did, man. He put a
Nintendo Olympics is a sport.
did, but also you're making decisions for your kids now, and so it's not easy.
No.
And I think it's the tough thing because I think having week after week after week finally cut through, because it's really easy when we do one-off sermons to kind of like brush it off and, you know, make excuses and be like, well, you know, at least I'm doing X or Y. And then I think with the whole ramp up and then, you know, it's always a good reminder, like you said, Pastor Lucas, that there's 100% chance that all of us are going to come before Jesus.
Yeah.
And so, like, to take everything that we've had, you know, and that's the same for academics, it's the same for sports. It's
Yeah, and
It's a challenge.
I think kids are a huge one, and I think careers is the other one that I would say. Because like I said, even in my own life, something I've been challenged with in this series, I think it was something that you said, I think like the second or third week about pursuing that is I kid myself that I'm the only one that could do something, you know, and like in this, you know, our, the work that we do in our ministry, it's like someone will call me and be like, do you have a second? And I'm like, and sometimes I have to say, I'm sorry, I'm with my children, you know, like, and I can call you back in an hour and a half once I put them to bed, you know, but, you know, like that's just the reality is like I'm not God, you know, like it's fine. Like I'm not the fixer of everyone's problems.
Yep. So,
but I thought it was a great series. Good pick, Pastor Rick. And we hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys next year on the next year.
next time.
Whoa.
We'll see you here next time on the 167. If you enjoyed this episode of the 167, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, get notified, leave a 5-star rating and a positive review. Tell all your friends to listen as well. Make sure you go over to newlifegardener.com and check out all that we have to offer as a church, and check out our messages online as well. Thanks for listening.